Right? I think it's amazing. Ugh, I love this song so much. Hi, everyone. So a couple weeks ago, we actually hit 2,000 subscribers on my channel, and then very briefly after, we already are very close to 3,000, and once this goes live, I may have already surpassed 3,000. Right before I hit the 2,000 mark, I kind of asked the subscribers, like, what would you like to see on the channel as a celebration? And so I actually, I gave a couple options with the poll and everything on the community tab. And one of my viewers, Yvonne van Wageningen-Techel, actually said, how about you choose something or you cover something that you really like? So I found that very inspiring and it was a good idea. And so today is actually my personal pick of something that I really love. And it's actually got a little bit of a special story to it. So we're going to be looking at 12 Foot Ninja's One Hand Killing today. And it's one of my favorite songs by 12 Foot Ninja, but the video especially, I absolutely love, and I've seen it many times. This came out, I think, in 2016. My husband and I were living in Australia at the time. And I kind of wasn't that much into metal anymore at that point in time, and I'd been listening to a lot of other music, and this band single-handedly got me straight back into it, and to the point of no return since then. And 12 Foot Ninja is one of the bands that I really, really had wanted to see live. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened, but they either didn't survive the pandemic, which, Australia was really, really strict during the pandemic, and so they couldn't tour. Maybe, I don't know, life happens, right? So 12 Foot Ninja is no longer, which is absolutely so upsetting to me. Absolutely love their work and just such a talented bunch of guys. And yeah, anyway, so I'm really heartbroken about them not performing any longer. I don't think they're even producing any music anymore. Regardless, I still wanted to share this with you. I don't if you're not familiar with 12 Foot Ninja, they have a couple really, really good albums. And one of the things that I really love about them in particular is that they're really great at genre blending. Something that we love from Electric Callboy, and it's not exactly new, but these guys are more into jazz and funk, and that's what they blend into the metal in a really fun and just such a creative way. So let's take a look at this video. I'm sure, oh, well, actually, Electric Callboy is an incredibly good comparison because 12 and Ninja had the same type of joy and sort of humor to that they took into the music. Well, the music, especially the videos. This video, just to prepare you, is very funny and kind of weird. And I'm sure that if you love Electric Callboy, you're also really gonna enjoy this. So let's take a look. Also, I don't know why, but I've always found that Australians are, I don't know what's in the water there, and I hope I got a little bit of that while I lived there for like 4 years. But they're also talented. It's a relatively small country. There's not that many inhabitants, but there's so many amazing acts that come out of Australia, but also really great actors and just such incredible creatives. And I think it's also that they get a lot of support from the government, probably, but also just in general, the arts are pretty big there. So I found it really an encouraging environment for that kind of stuff. So yeah, anyway, that's enough rambling. Let's get into it.
How you going? Have you been busy, have you? Have you been busy?
Yes, mate, I have been busy. I've been as busy as a blowfly at a barbecue.
Well, that is busy, isn't it? That's quite busy. What about you, mate? Have you been busy? Have you been busy, have you?
I've been busier than a one-legged man in an asking competition.
Ah! Jeez, that is busy. It's quite busy. Shane, have you been busy, mate? Have you been busy, have you?
Fucking oath I've been busy. Been busier than a dog with two fucking dicks.
And what about you, Ryan? Have you been busy too?
Yeah, mate, I've been busy.
How busy have you been, pal?
I've been busier than a cat.
A fucking cat, mate, is that right?
You haven't really been that busy. Been on holidays then, have you? Bit of relaxing time. Bit of watching the bloody grass grow. Watching the paint dry, have you?
No, I've been busier than a cat.
Ew.
Mate, everyone knows cats aren't that busy.
I've been busier than a cat bearing shit.
Nah. You haven't been busy, mate. You haven't been bloody busy at all.
On concrete.
What?
I have been busier than a cat bearing shit on concrete.
Well, that is fucking busy then, isn't it? You have been quite busy then, haven't you?
He's a busy boy. He's a busy little beaver.
Okay, so that's about the first 2 minutes. I love this so much. First of all, because it's again like I'll make the comparison to Electric Callboy, but they also do that like the bogan stuff. Okay, so bogan is the Aussie word for sort of like trash, trailer trash, kind of like hick, you know, tokkie as we would call them in the Netherlands. I don't know what the German word is. Is there a word? What's the word for tokkie? Or bogan or Zef, I think is the South African equivalent. It's so funny and it's so Australian. So you can imagine that for me living in Australia at the time, it was just so I don't know. It's something we, especially living in Perth, you know, you saw quite a bunch of these type of guys there, and the whole back and forth I think is just really funny. I mean, and it's relatively easy. It's a bunch of medium close-ups and just the back and forth. And then after they do that whole thing, we have this serious band, which is also them, come in and go into this studio, or what is it, like practice rooms? I don't know what you call that. So these doofuses are kind of just standing there. Also, these work boots. I don't know. Everything that they're wearing here is just so typical. So fun. So they walk in and they're just kind of like looking at them. I love the way that this is done, by the way, because they shot it, and then basically what you do when you're editing, you have to make very sure that your shot stays the exact same, but you shoot one part and then you shoot the other and then you cut it in the middle, or kind of like probably here, and then you have to color grade them because your light's still probably going to have changed, right, between the two shots. So you color grade them to be exactly the same, and then that way it looks like it's happening at the same time, and then you just cut it together. It's a very cool effect, and then they do it again here. Just very effective. Light's very garish here, but I mean, it works for the sort of space that they're in, right? And something else that I've always loved is, so they're the ferret and the sickos, I guess. And then we have some references to some other bands like Dead Lettuce Circus, which is the most Australian way of writing it. So funny. I don't know, it's just little dumb stuff like that they put into this that I think is just hilarious. Anyway, let's get into the actual song now, shall we?
money where your mouth is. You have the method, but will you move mountains? This has become quite a vehicle with a roof for a grandiose ego. You have adapted to the role. Your portrayal portrays your soul. Wherever you may go, may your hearts remain yours. Transhuman influence, I maintain observance. Focused on radiance, you remain in silence. Language omniscient, I renounce surveillance. Devoid of intelligence. We're back.
Oh my god, it's so dumb and so fun. Anyway, and also smart, you know? It's the smun thing that I also accidentally said on one of these Electric Callboy videos. It's just I love that blend and it's just not taking themselves too seriously, which I think is so cool to see in some of these metal bands that it's on the one hand, they're making excellent music that's really entertaining, but also like it doesn't all have to be super grave, you know what I mean? So it's just really great. So the singer who we are seeing here is Kinetic, and his voice to me is still one of the best voices also in metal, to be honest. It's like he's got such a range and variety to his voice and so full-chested as well. Like I'm not really like you'll have to go elsewhere for the vocal analysis. Like Charismatic Voice is good for that. But I wish that she would cover them sometimes. She might actually really like this. But he's just got a really, really interesting voice. Always has for me anyway. So, that aside, so some more fun stories. So this guy, he's the guitar player and he's sort of like the brains behind 12-Foot Ninja. And I also just noticed, which I didn't know before, but he also produced and directed this video. So I'm assuming that all this hilarious stuff is also sort of his idea. And this little tiny Marshall amplifier here. The funny thing is, while we were living in Australia, I had just before seeing this bought one of these just as at like a secondhand store, more as just like interior decoration, not to actually use it. I don't think it was working actually. My husband's a guitar player. It's actually how we met, by the way, which is a whole other story. But he we tried it with his guitar and it wasn't working, so it's still it's such a funny little thing, and they do it more. And they also have him with this tiny gong here, right? So also this outfit, what is that outfit? It's so funny. But the gong, like it's also like hilariously small, but it sounds really big. So there's more stuff like that, and they're all wearing these Australia hats, and then they constantly switch between the serious band in black and then you know the hilariously tastelessly dressed band here, which is just doing the dumb stuff. And there's so much eye for detail, like this little David Bowie pick. It's just fun little stuff like that. All right, let's continue watching. Serpentine call over and on. As you can imagine, they are pulling every last time. You will have faltered. You are birds and the people consistently caught in the middle. Okay, before we head into this part, I didn't want to spoil it just yet. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the camera work and all of that stuff, and also some of the editing, because it's actually one of the parts that I like a little less about this video. It's a sort of almost stereotypical. I mean, it's the only typical thing that they're doing, right? Because the rest of it is like they're really trying to push what they can do within this space that's basically just like a white box and the band performing. But the thing that they're doing is we have a lot of really frantic camera movement, which is sort of typical, as well as this effect that they put on in post where everything is just like glitching sort of thing. You can see that here where there's like a this effect that's it's literally called a glitch effect, right? So we see a lot of that here. And then with the movement, like, I mean, it adds to it because otherwise it might be too boring, but it's not my favorite personally. But it's interesting stuff. Regardless, it does work. And maybe it does fit because they especially use that on the Sirius band in black. So maybe they did that on purpose to kind of, because it is sort of stereotypical, right? Even the camera movement and the effects and all of that kind of stuff. So in a way, it's fitting. So it's again, it's pretty smart, even if I don't like it necessarily, because it's so stereotypical. And then we go to this part where they basically have like a strobing light, maybe, or like a flashing light, which is very garish on his face, and we basically just see flashes of him as he's singing again, sort of for the band in black, and it's just very effective. It works well. So let's now head into what is probably my favorite part of this song. It transitions into something you probably won't expect if you don't know this song. Right? I think it's amazing. Oh, I love this song so much. So something else that I quickly wanted to point out as well is there's a difference in color grading between the two scenes. So here we have, the serious band, as I've been calling them, and they're all wearing black. The only color really that we see is this red bit here. And it's kind of almost desaturated looking, like they took out a lot of the color here. Contrasting to, like, here, there's a lot of color. So it's far more saturated, and just in general, they're wearing a lot more colors. Obviously, we had already seen that, but even in the color grading, they worked on that too. So it's just very consistent that way. And that actually, now that I'm thinking about it more, my gripe with the camera work, like the with a lot of movement and the glitchy stuff on the serious band, I really think it's sort of poking fun, like they did with the sign with the Dead Lettuce Circus and all that stuff. Like they're really trying to poke fun at these serious bands. Which, in a way, they are too, because actually, when you see live performances of theirs, you see that they actually perform wearing the black stuff. So it's just that type of self-awareness and not taking yourself too seriously that I really love. So I love that section. I think the acting, this bit also with him singing and this ridiculous shark guitar, like what even is that? It's and all the excessive Australia gear too. It's so fun. And as I said, like they're all so into it with the acting and just it's so over the top. I love it. Just yeah, couldn't love it more. So random. That ending is so random. Anyway, it just ends on a note that you're not expecting at all with the piano player and like the moment that you think they're going into like a big breakdown, even though you do get a sort of breakdown, it heads back into the jazzy stuff. Like there's such a variety in the music and it's just I miss 12 Foot Ninja so much. Their last album, I think, wasn't as big of a hit as their previous stuff. I don't know why, because it's a good album. It's just less metally, so maybe they, lost some of the fans along the way with that. And, they did a great song with Tatiana of Ginger too. I think this was like 21 or 20. Yeah, it must have been 2021. That was that last album that they did. So just absolutely brilliant guys. And again, I'm just heartbroken. If I can, I will cover more 12 Foot Ninja in the future because I think that they still deserve all of the love and the credit in the world for the amazing music that they made. And who knows? I don't know. I don't think that these guys have like a new project yet, which is such a bummer. I hope that they'll come back, like maybe not together, but separately, with the new bands, new projects. And I hope we'll see a lot more of these guys. They're absolutely brilliant. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you already knew about 12 Foot Ninja or if I introduced you to something new or and whether you like this video or not. And just in general, let me know what you've been watching lately. Is there anything that you would recommend? I've been watching The Bear, the new season. It was such a disappointment. Yeah, I didn't love that at all. Like I was very bummed because I loved the first two seasons. That aside, give me a subscribe if you haven't yet. And also I have a Patreon where you can get exclusive access to some videos that I don't post on YouTube, as well as early access to videos like these and more stuff coming soon. I'm really excited about all of this and how much fun it's been to get to know you all. And please join me in the comments because it's just been so fun. And I love connecting over, my favorite two things, which is essentially music and movies and music videos. And so, yeah, let me know. This was awesome. Thanks, guys. And I hope you join me for the next one. Peace.